Welcome back to Introduction to Engineering Design. Today we're going to work on dimensioning in SOLIDWORKS. To start this exercise, you want to go ahead and navigate to the LMS module 1.2.4b, Dimensioning in SOLIDWORKS. Once here, you're going to notice a couple things. First thing is the part that we need is underneath my cursor right now and flashing. I need to download this part. So I'll go ahead and click on Download. Now I've made a file underneath my Westwood Engineering folder. I'm in second hour right now, 1.2.4, and I will paste my file. There's my part, 1.2.4b, sample dim SLDPRT. Double click on that to open it. Now while that's opening, and it'll open pretty quick if you've got SOLIDWORKS opened up, what we do want to take a quick look at here is the rest of our instructions. These instructions walk you through step by step through the process I'm going to show in this video. Use the instructions if you're just stuck on a single step. If you're lost from the beginning or you need a complete review of the process, go ahead and keep watching this video. Let's get started. So we're going to follow the same process that we did in our last exercise, making a SOLIDWORKS drawing. And we're going to start a new drawing, and we're going to make that new drawing from the existing part. That's the reason we have the part open. So right up here, we're going to go ahead and click File. Make drawing from part. This should open up the Westwood default template for a drawing. And it'll also put you into the view palette. Now from this view palette, I want to select the best view for this part. Now the front view happens to be the best front view. And you'll see why here in just a second. Drag it down the lower left corner, drop it, release, pull my cursor up to project a drawing above it as a top view and to the right. There's my right view. Off at 45, click and drop an isometric view. Exit the projected view mode, hit escape or any one of the green check marks. So the first thing I want to do is I want to add some hidden lines. So I select the parent view, which is my front view, and I want to come down here and choose hidden lines visible. Now you'll notice that makes hidden lines visible in my isometric view. I don't really want that. So on the isometric view, I want to choose shaded with edges. We're now set up. So let's go ahead and start to dimension. So right now, the first thing that we're going to do after we've got our views laid out and then appearances the way that we would like them to look, I want to go ahead and select the dimension tool. You'll find that dimension tool right up here under annotations. Select the annotation tab, Smart Dimension. Now you'll notice it gives you the method of using the Smart Dimension tool. And in this instance, instead of dimensioning, commanding a dimension, we are going to ask it the dimensions. So go ahead and click on that. You'll notice I get the little calipers as I bring it into my view. Now I need to dimension all of the features. And that's a little bit tricky, but first I want to show you how to use the Smart Dimension tool before we talk about all the features. So the first feature I'm going to dimension is going to be this lower cutout where the circle is. So if I want to dimension between two lines, the way that I use this tool is I go ahead and click on the first line, and you'll notice it turns orange. Click and release. Pull it over the second line, which I'm dimensioning to, click and release. Now you'll see I get this little orb, yellow and blue. And the yellow side is the active side. So if I want to click here, it's going to drop it automatically positioned to the lower side of the model. And I'll click that and release it. Similarly, I can click on the depth of this feature by selecting the first line, come up, hover over the second line, click it, and now I'm going to project it to the right. Pretty neat idea. So that's one way to use my Smart Dimension tool. Another way I can use my Smart Dimension tool, and I'll zoom in here a little bit, is to dimension to the center line of the circle. So what I always want to do on this center line dimensioning, or center mark, is choose the reference I'm going to dimension off of. I'm going to use this lower line. Click and release. Now I'm going to come up and click on the horizontal center mark. Click and release. Now you'll see, again, I can position it left or right automatically, but look at the neat feature how the dimensions get stacked out for me. And I'll drop that dimension. Similarly, I'm going to do the left-right position by clicking on the right-hand side of the model. The vertical portion of the center mark, and I'll drop it below. Now you see my dimensions are dropped. Now I can move these dimensions around quite a bit. And let's pause for 1 second and take a look. You'll notice I've got 3 digits showing. You may have 3 digits showing also. What we want to do is be sure that we're in 2 dimensions. We want to come down here and click where it says IPS and choose Edit Document Units. Here I can select the number of decimal places that I want to portray. And I'm going to go ahead and portray 2 decimal places. Go OK. And you'll notice all my dimensions automatically change. Now you can see I can move my dimensions around and slide them back and forth and arrange them a little bit neater. And it also snaps, so it goes out in chunks. So you can see it kind of snap into position. That's designed to aid you. Now the question that comes up is how many dimensions should I do? And honestly, the dimensioning method that you're going to use is exactly like your flow chart showed before. So if I pull our instructions back in, you'll see that I have this same flow chart that we used in the class exercise, and you may recognize this as your classroom exercise that you manually dimensioned. So I've got a top notch, and I want to dimension that in the top view using the lower right corner of the top view for width and depth, and the top of the front view for depth of the notch. Similarly, the small notch, top view, lower right corner, and the whole top view, lower right corner. So let's do all those. So I've got the small notch and I've got the whole position. Let's do the larger notch. So I'll go ahead and click first line, second line, and I'm going to position it to the right. For the notch width, left side, and the notch side. Drop it using the little yellow orb. Now I don't need to use that little yellow orb, and I'll show you when I go to dimension a circle. So to dimension a circle, I'm still in Smart Dimension, and I click once on the circle edge. Notice that I dimension what turns orange. I'm going to click and drop it. Now you'll see I can choose any one of 4 quadrants here to drop it around. Now I don't need to do that either. I can just pull it out, stretch it out, and say, you know what? This looks like it doesn't have much of a conflict, and it looks pretty good there. So I'll just position it there. So now what I've done is I've dimensioned my notch, the big notch, in width and depth, the little notch in width and depth, the hole in width and depth. But you'll notice that I need to go to the front view here to actually show how deep down those notches are cut. So let's do that, or the height of the notch. So I'm going to dimension these off of the bottom surface down here. So I'll click first on the bottom surface, and I'm going to click to the top of the first small notch. Click a second time, and I'll pull it out here and manually drop it. My second notch height, click at the bottom, notch level, pull it out, and drop it. And I want my dimension to appear nice and neat about in the middle. Now the third one would be the overall object height, wouldn't it? And I dropped that. So now you'll notice I've got all of those object heights. So let's take a look and see if we're missing anything here. So my top notch, I've got its size, 2 by 1.5, and its location. I've got its height, which is 2.5 inches off the bottom. My lower notch, I've got its width, 2.5, its depth, 2, and its height, 2.5. The hole, I've got the size, 1 inch diameter, 1 inch in from the right edge, 0.75 in from the front edge, and its depth is 1.5. Looks like I have all those. Now the last thing I need to do is my overall size. On the top view, width and depth, front view, height. So looking at the top view, I need to add another width and one more height, don't I? So I'll go ahead and dimension from the front to the back edge and drop it. I'm also going to dimension from the left, or the right rather, to the left edge and drop it. Now you'll see I've got all my dimensions in here, don't I? Overall width, overall depth, overall height. And you'll notice, just like in the classroom exercise, if I leave my dimension tool, hit escape, I've got this dimension, I've got this view out here with nothing on it. So I'll go ahead and click on it, select it, delete it. It'll ask me to confirm. Yes. And now I've got my part fully dimensioned. Now I can move these around and make it look prettier. I'll put a little bit of room here. I'll move this over to the side a little more. Now notice that I don't have any dimensions outside the boundaries of the drawing. Everything's within the boundaries of the drawing. I don't have extension lines, nor do I have dimension lines or leader lines crossing over one another. Closest thing I have is right about here, but that's close enough. I don't know that I'm going to get that much better. Overall, the drawing looks good. I want to go ahead and save it. So I just go File, Save, and it puts it back into that same folder, 1.2.4, where we put the original part file, except it's now got a drawing extension. Save it, and now I want to save it as a PDF. Save as, drop down, PDF, and save. That's all there is to it. Make your drawing, turn your part in. Thanks for watching.